In my previous posts, I talked about the man who tried to take my sister off our front lawn. To recap, a year and a half ago, my adopted mother called me one day to pick up my little sister after she got on the wrong bus. When I got there, I found a strange man talking to her. I scared him off, but over the next few months, weird things kept happening around our yard. Finally, one of Rosie's coats disappeared and was returned hours later, with all the tears and rips fixed. After what seemed like months of asking the police for help, they said if anything else happened, they'd come over right away. That brings us to barely 24 hours later. It was a Saturday night, and Claire was supposed to go out with Diane for dinner, a movie, and maybe some dancing. I was supposed to go out with my own girlfriend, and a neighborhood kid was supposed to watch all 4 children, Diane's 2 and Claire's 2. The girl was like 14, and her parents lived 2 doors down and would be home all night. All of us were really unsure about it, and after much deliberation, I insisted that I'd be the one to stay home, and my girlfriend could come over to help keep me company, shall we say. Fast forward a few hours later, the kids had just eaten dinner, and the ladies were ready to go out. I was inside getting dinner ready for me and my girlfriend. They left just as she came up our driveway, thanked her for changing her plans, and she let herself in. A bit of backstory on my girlfriend, Tara. She's 19, very tall but very thin. When she gets dressed up, she can look late 20s and absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. However, when she's dressed down in sweats and a tank top that probably won't stay on through the night, she's lucky to pass for legal to drive. And that's a small detail that becomes important. So we have a good night hanging out with the kids. The boys, David and Sam, are absolutely nuts over her and have been trying to steal her from me since they first met Tara. They don't leave her lap throughout the whole movie, and the girls, Rosie and Kaylee, won't leave mine. Everything went smoothly, even bedtime, and before long all 4 are fast asleep, leaving us to finally go downstairs to enjoy our date. We have a romantic candlelight dinner, a few hours late, but that didn't matter. Put on a movie that neither one of us paid any attention to, and fall asleep on each other. It's nearly midnight when I hear the screaming. Flinging myself off the couch and from underneath a very startled Tara, I take the stairs by 2s and end up in Rosie's room, where she and Kaylee are in her bottom bunk shrieking. Both girls practically jump into my arms, nearly hysterical, and neither one can make any sense until I see Rosie pointing out the window. I feel Tara behind me, and pass my girls off to her, before turning off the light and looking out the window. He's there. He's standing out there in our front yard, staring into Rosie's room at the top bunk where she had just been sleeping. My heart stops, and I duck down before he can see me, my voice practically hissing as I tell Tara to take the girls into Davin's room, lock the door, and call the police. I make sure they're in there before I check the window again, and now he's gone, nowhere to be seen. My heart starts racing at this point, and I double-check the door. As I hear Tara on the phone with the police, the sound of the front door jiggling breaks me from my concentration. I move to the stairs, and watch from the windows as he moves from the front door to the back, trying each point of access he can find before turning back to the front yard. At this point, I'm set off like crazy. Not only am I anxious for myself, I also have Rosie upstairs who's already been traumatized by this guy, 3 other kids who are now awake and scared, and my girlfriend. 5 people I'd do absolutely anything to protect. Seeing him continue to try to reach each window and door, I panic as I realize he could get into our garage again, and that's where we keep our sports equipment. Baseball bats, hockey sticks, things that could be used to break open our windows. When I hear the garage door finally start to open, I lose it. The next thing I remember is the police showing up, and Tara pulling me off the guy before the cops take him down to the ground. As they get him into the back of the squad car, him screaming and cussing at me, Tara fills me in that after she heard the front door slam open, she ran downstairs after me and found me having tried to drag the man to the ground. The 2 of us throwing punches as I'm screaming at him to never come near my family again. When they finally get him under control and come to talk to me, they explain that the reason they got there so quickly was that they had been in the area checking in on things, when they found an abandoned car on the other side of the forest, directly across from where the forest ends, beside our place. They found it suspicious, and checked the car only to find kids' toys and pictures. When they got Tara's call, they knew the two were connected. When the two mothers got home, they revealed that the pictures they had found were of Rosie. Dozens of pictures of her, on various days in various places. The back seat was full of toys for a little girl, and the trunk had clothes and blankets. When he finally confessed, he told the police that he had been watching her for months before he even tried to take her off the lawn, that he was stopped by me, and that when he saw her mother go out, and what he thought was a young teenage babysitter come over, he planned on breaking in to take her. He never really explained why, other than that he just wanted her, but he ended up getting charged with stalking a minor and misconduct. So to the creepy guy who not only tried to take my little sister off the curb, but stalked her for months and was going to break into our home to take her, doing who knows what to the babysitter and other kids in order to do that, we've met more than I ever wanted to. And if I ever see you near her or the others again, I'll finish what my girlfriend stopped me from doing. I've been lurking on this thread for a while, and decided to make an account to share my own creepy story. FYI, I'm a 21-year-old girl, but I was around 7 or 8 when this story took place. I grew up in the suburbs of a large city in Ohio. My neighborhood was like any stereotypical suburb. Really safe, lots of kids, and all the parents knew each other. You get the idea. So let me explain the layout of my house for clarification in the story. So when you walk in the front door, there's a living room which my parents used as their office, and then the kitchen is straight ahead. Right off the kitchen to the left is the master bedroom. Near the front door, you went down about 8 steps and we had a finished basement, which my sister and I used as our playroom/TV room. Then we had the traditional second floor which had 2 bedrooms, for me and my sister. So one night, my parents decided to go out with some friends of my dad. So it's me, my sister Rachel, who was 9, and my dad's friend's son, Ben. I believe he was around 12 or 13. I remember him complaining to his dad, saying he was too old to be a babysitter. Well, whatever. My usual babysitter, Kristen, was watching all of us. She was about 17 at the time, and had been watching Rachel and I since we were toddlers. So the night starts out fine. Kristen ordered us pizza, and we were all watching TV in the basement. We had a large sectional L-shaped couch that we were all sitting on. It was against the wall that backed up into 2 large windows, which faced into the backyard. Since our basement was not a traditional basement, you could clearly see out the backyard through the windows. So we're all watching a movie. I remember it was the new Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, as this was around 2002 to 2003, and we had been in the basement for a while. At 10 p.m., I hear what sounds like someone walking around upstairs on the second floor, and the ceiling in the basement lined up to where our bedrooms were on the second floor. I look at everyone else, and I see that they heard it too. My house is older, but I still know what the sounds of people walking sound like as opposed to just old house noises. I have a large Labrador Retriever, so I figure she might just be upstairs walking around, and we all ignore it. About 2 minutes later, I go upstairs to my kitchen to get water, and I notice my dog is sleeping on the couch in my parents' office area. She had obviously been there a while, as she was in deep sleep. At this point, my 7-year-old self is freaking out, wondering who the fuck it was walking around upstairs. I also want to point out that a month earlier when Kristen babysat me and Rachel, she let us watch the original Halloween. So I had been convinced since then that Michael Myers was hiding around every corner of my house waiting to kill me. I tell Kristen that the dog is asleep on the first floor, so it couldn't have been her walking around. She looks a little nervous, but she tells me the house is old and makes weird noises, and to just watch TV and not worry about it. About 15 minutes later, we hear it again. We put the TV on mute and listen. The walking continues for about 10 seconds after we mute the TV, then stops. At this point, we're all about to shit ourselves, but being the dumb kids we are, we decide to go upstairs and see what the fuck is going on, because looking for an intruder in your house always ends well, right? We take my dog with us. We go into me and Rachel's rooms and don't see anything, but all of us were freaked out. We had all heard the exact same thing. We decided to go down the stairs to my parents' room. The plan was to lock the door and just keep it together until my parents and Ben's got back. My parents' room was the only room we had thought not to check, since it was on the first floor. We opened the door and turned on the lights, only to find the window wide open. It was early November in Ohio. There was no way my parents had left the window open intentionally. At this point, I want to cry. After checking out the room and determining no weirdos are hiding under the bed, Kristen closes the window, locks the door, and pushes a chair against the doorknob. Kristen decides to call my dad and tell him to come home. Why we didn't call 911, I don't know. I don't think any of us wanted to believe someone would actually break into my house. She picks up the phone and there's no dial tone. This isn't unusual, as the phone in my parents' room was very old and frequently didn't work. It was one of those old phones you had to dial by twirling your finger in a circle. This was also before every 17-year-old had a cell phone, so we relied on landlines. Ben offers to run down to the basement and grab the other phone. He runs downstairs and is back in literally 15 seconds, and he looks like he's about to pee himself. He said when he went to go grab the phone, he looked out the window that looks into our backyard and saw a person just standing there about 50 feet away from the window, just looking straight into our house, not moving. Kristen decides we need to call 911. She clicks the green button to call, but there's no dial tone. Someone was messing with the phones. Kristen brought up the idea of making a run for a car, but no one wanted to go outside after what Ben saw. At this point, it's past 11 p.m. My parents had said they would be home between midnight and 1 a.m., so we decided to try and wait it out and not shit ourselves. We turn on the TV in my parents' room really loud to drown out any weird noises, and try to stay calm, knowing the door is locked and we have a large dog with us, along with a baseball bat my dad kept under the bed. My parents ended up getting home earlier than expected, as they started to worry when they couldn't get a hold of us by phone to check in. We told my parents what happened, and ended up calling the police and filing a report. Since we lived in a safe neighborhood, things like this were not a normal occurrence. When the police went out to investigate the phone issue, they saw that the phone line had been cut. They also found 4 or 5 cigarette butts on the ground near the windows that looked into our basement, where we had been eating and watching TV. We could clearly be seen through the window sitting on the couch. But no one in my family smokes. Whoever broke in, or tried to at least, had been clearly watching us for a long time, and knew no parents were home. We never found out if someone was actually inside our house. The police searched all the rooms, and nothing was missing or looked out of place. But the windows in me and Rachel's rooms were not locked. It was possible the man broke in through my parents' bedroom, and then escaped out the second-story window. The drop would have been about 10 feet, so not impossible. The police took it seriously, and patrolled my street for the next week. They never found the person who Ben saw, but the incident stayed with me for a long time. I was terrified to stay home by myself until I was almost 16, and I made my parents buy thick curtains for the basement so no one could see into the house. I'm now a 21-year-old college junior, and I still get freaked out when I have to stay in my apartment alone. I still wonder to this day what the hell that person was doing, and what their intentions were. I'm not a religious person, but I thank God that my parents had the good sense to come home when they did, because who knows what would have happened if they would have stayed out any longer. At the time this took place, I was in high school, living in a nice area. I had always wanted to get a job as soon as I was legally allowed, so I called up all the veterinary clinics in the region and filled out applications. The place where I was hired was a medium-sized clinic in a less nice local town, closer to a large U.S. city. I have plenty of horror stories, animal and human alike, from this time, but this one is probably the most human-oriented. My job was to do tech, help the doctors do injections, surgeries, and the like, and do general kennel duties which mostly involved cleaning cages. There are only 3 more things you need to know before I can get into the meat of this. First, there were 2 shifts, opening to early afternoon and late afternoon to midnight. Due to my school schedule and general preference, I often worked nights and spent most of my shift alone in the place or with one other person, since we usually worked in pairs. Second, the doctor who owned the clinic got some kind of tax incentive to hire kennel staff through a program that tried to place mentally ill people. Since I was the only one who didn't complain about working with these people, I was almost always paired with one. It doubled my workload generally, but they left me alone, so I didn't mind. On the night of this story, I was working with a woman who was very disabled. She was supposed to clean the cages and mop the floors and such, but I generally tended to do all that over once she was done, so we didn't get yelled at in the morning. She was very nice, seemed mostly functional, but was very childlike and prone to drama and tantrums. I don't remember her name, but let's call her Shelley for now. Everyone had left a bit early for the day for whatever reason, at around 3 p.m. We had until midnight, and there was plenty of work to do. It was nearly a full house in terms of boarding and ill animals that had come in earlier the day. I was admittedly a bit frazzled because I had nearly been bitten by a cat that no one had labeled as being on rabies watch, and one of the large dogs I had to handle a few times that night had bitten a girl my height and age earlier in the day. At one point, around 5 p.m., when I was taking that dog to the outdoor run to do his thing, I looked up and noticed that there were people in the very back of our parking lot, up against the fence. I could only see them because I was behind the building like they were. It was a guy in a longer raincoat, balding on top, weird around the temples, and a woman. The guy's pants were around his ankles and he was pounding the woman away, who he appeared to be pushing over and holding her hair. I assumed it was a prostitute. This caught me off guard and I froze for a moment, pretty sure they hadn't heard me. Just as I'm backing away to go back inside, the man looks up and gets this, what I can only describe as a predatory look on his face, grinning at me. It was oddly chilling, but I merely grimaced at him and quickly went back in. I avoided putting dogs outside for a bit, and then only walked them to and from the door. When I glanced out again, they were both gone. I figured I had overreacted since I was already jumpy. Around 9 p.m., I finally get my lunch break, and after telling Shelley, I head out the back door to the Taco Bell across the street, and the only thing nearby. I feel this odd sensation of being watched as I'm walking, and I note that there are fewer people on the street than usual. After grabbing my food, I head back, but I still see no one. Still, though, because I can't shake the feeling, I pick up my pace and jog back to the door quickly. As I'm fumbling for my keys, still scanning the empty parking lot in the dark, I notice something moving. Something shiny, under one of the cars. It's a shoe. Someone is ducking down behind it. Then I'm inside and the door locks automatically. I tell Shelley not to go outside and to go upstairs to eat. After thinking about it for a while, I decide not to call the cops because it's probably that couple going at it again. Besides, it's another 3 to 4 hours until I get out, and that's a long time for Creepy to wait. More drudgery. At what I figure had to be around 10:20, I start hearing voices. I turn off the radio in the room upstairs and lean out the door to listen. It's Shelley, but she's not talking or singing to herself as usual. She's arguing with someone. I'm downstairs in a blink, and she's talking out the back door, raising her voice now in confusion and frustration. I don't know how to get there. I told you I don't know. Why are you still asking me things I don't have the answer to? I have yet to hear him speak, but I'm alarmed that he's at the back door, which is hidden, instead of the front entry. I edge off the stairs so that I can see around the corner, and sure enough, it's the same guy. The moment he sees me, he gets the creepiest fucking smile on his face, and starts to advance as though he's going to come inside. I immediately shove the door back, but he fights it from the other side. Bad news. Luckily, I'm surprisingly strong for my size, and I'm wearing work boots for traction, so even after he sticks an elbow in the door, I'm still throwing myself against it, yelling, "Not today, fucker! Get back! Get out of here!" Within a few seconds, I give him enough room to take his arm back, and when he pulls it out, I throw myself against the door and it shuts and locks automatically. It's metal, but the ones in the front are glass. Shelly is crying. I tell her that everything's fine, but very sternly not to open any doors for anyone unless I tell her to. She agrees. I go to reception and call the cops. They say it's likely the guy was confused or didn't understand where he was, and not to worry. They promise to send some guys over to search the lot and surrounding area, and call me back. I do perimeter walks inside until they do, securing everything, even remotely questionable. Every time I hear a strange thump, I have to go investigate it myself with a flashlight. They call back and say they went over it a few times and there was no one there. Probably scared him off. Call back if we have any more problems. Now I'm behind on my work, but I have a ride coming at midnight, so I hurry up and get going on the rest of it. As I'm managing the IVs on some of the surgery patients from that day, one of them, a giant Rottweiler, goes to the bathroom in his cage. It's mostly blood, and that's not good. He continues to bleed from the anus, so I'm going to have to take him to emergency. I call one of the doctors to confirm. Shelly takes the phone and starts screaming that the dog is bleeding into the receiver. They say to get him to the emergency clinic the next town over ASAP. So there's a work vehicle there that I can use, but I can't keep him stable and drive at the same time. It's also going to take an hour to do the paperwork, and our own work is way behind. We're not supposed to run overtime. I consider leaving Shelly there, but obviously I can't do that. She can't really be trusted to make good decisions. I decide to take everything, and try to coach Shelly on how she needs to hold the dog in the car. She protests and says she doesn't want to go anywhere, but starts to whine and flip out when I say I have to go, because she doesn't want to be left alone. Finally I convince her. I get the gear, find the keys, and we're going. I pause just as I'm about to open the back door. I have that sinking, creeping feeling again. There are no windows on that side of the building. The cops took forever to respond last time. I decide to call someone and have them on the phone while we walk out. Still, it feels wrong. The dog is still bleeding. I run back up to the front to look out the windows, and I see nothing still, though I feel I'm being watched. Then I notice there are shoe prints near the front door from the recent rain. Someone could have just taken shelter on their walk. Maybe. I go to the back and decide to walk out on the run, which is fenced in and covered, to see if anyone is visible in the lot. I wait. No one is there. It's decided then. I turn around to go, but I hear a noise. The creepy feature emerges from the landscape, like some kind of fucking awful Where's Waldo game that I just lost. He's smiling like a demon, but I think he's trying to tone it down. He's trying to talk to me, all questions. He puts his hand on the rusty fence and shakes it. It's pretty flimsy. I'm noping backwards with speed, but the door won't open. Shelly's been watching the whole thing, and she's freaking out. She's scared of him getting in, since I said he was a bad guy, so she locked the door. She's locked in the building, and I'm locked in the open-air run. The creeper is trying to get into the run ever more aggressively, all while trying to act like we're just, having a fucking conversation at 11 p.m. Like my fucking his arm up was just a common greeting. Shelly, open the door. No, he's bad. I don't want him coming in here. Shelly, please, open the door. No, I don't want to. Open the door right now. You're being mean to me. I don't want to. It's fine. Are you worried about me? It's fine. Do you work here? Do you work here? Shelly, I'm sorry. I have to. This guy is hurt and he needs us to help him, remember? And you want to help him, right? And you need me to help you, but I can't help protect you unless you let me in. Finally, I get back inside. The dog is smiling, laying in a pool of his own blood. The fence has gone quiet. The door to the outdoor run won't lock, and the inner door leading to the main area doesn't have a lock. Shit. Also, if he's willing to break a fence, he'll definitely break that glass. I dial 911 and tell them to get over here. I also tell them I might not be here and where I'm en route to, and to call me back when they get here. Then I call my dad and ask him to get up and help me transport an injured animal. While we wait, the dogs in the runs are barking. Creepy was gone by the time my dad and the cops got there. The dog got the attention he needed and was fine afterwards. When I got yelled at the next day for not finishing the mopping, I put in my 2 weeks' notice, told everyone else about the guy, and never left alone at night again. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. If you guys liked the video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you have any feedback or suggestions for stories you'd like to see, or anything like that, be sure to leave a comment below, because I always read all of the comments. I have a pretty big update for the channel for you guys. So, as you guys probably know, things have been pretty rough lately for the YouTube horror narrator community. Basically, on YouTube, a bunch of advertisers pulled out, and now everybody's getting way less returns on their views and everything like that. So, I wanted to announce that I finally set up a Patreon account where you guys can donate and contribute to the channel if you like. Of course, it's never necessary. None of my content will ever be necessary to be paid for or anything like that. Basically, what Patreon is it's just a tip jar for artists, if you feel like supporting them. Of course, if you don't have the money or anything like that, please don't feel like you have to or anything. It's just there for people who want to. So I'll be leaving a link to that in the description of the video, and also probably in a comment with the timestamps for stories for this video. Please give me feedback on what you guys think about that. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I hope it will go over well, and I hope you guys understand why I'm doing that. If you'd like to contact me, or if you have any stories you'd like to send in or that you'd like me to read, please be sure to take a look in the description of the video below. There will be links to all of my social media, including my Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail accounts. Send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the header of the email, or whatever you choose to send, what the title of the story is, what the theme of the story is, if it has any, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you're curious about the music used at all in this video, the music is always in the description below, in the order which it appears in the video, and I also leave links to the artists themselves in case you like their music and would like to give them support and check out more of their work. And of course, if you have any constructive criticism, please be sure to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.